I have this. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Science and Sorcery. It is I, your host, Leonard, here with my beautiful and audacious co-host, Grimmy. Say hello, Grimmy. Yes, well, Grimmy, hold on. I'll get you good side. Hold on. Yes? Is that better? I'm not using my hands. I know. Yes, Grimmy. Oh, you want to share something with us today? Well, so do I. Pardon if the quality looks a bit weird. I have a different camera I'm using for this sort of recording. I remember the last video I mentioned a few things about the people that I follow and the things that I look at. And yes, by the, visual of the glasses, this is sort of going to be an analysis on something. Now, I won't be as in-depth when it came to my, video that I did a long time ago when I was criticizing the comments and the decisions of a person that, was within the occult. Tarot.exe. I can't remember his name exactly. But then they switched over to the more, mainstream Catholicism thing and their version of Catholicism from what they've seen as true. And they had the comments on it, the condemnation of the craft that they were a part of and everything else like that. And the whole backlash that sort of happened from that event. But this time, I believe I'm going to be going into a reaction video. Now, for the sake of the camera, I know I have to be, off to the side somewhere. I know, God forbid. But I kind of want to get the camera just a little bit closer. Yes, that's it. That's a lot better. So over there, you're going to be seeing a screen of the person I'm going to be talking about today. Now, before I bring them on screen, this is a person that, has been, within the craft for a long time. Someone that I mentioned previously in the video that I recorded before this. And it is someone that I believe shows signs of a type of, I could say religious trauma, but I think there are still some entrails follow along with it. And as I was looking for this video again, I couldn't help but notice that she uploaded another video quite recently that I think sort of confirms my suspicion. And I think for what I may have mentioned in the previous episode. So the person today that we're going to be talking about is known as Melinda the Mystic Witch. Now, this video isn't something that I am deciding to sort of bash on Melinda. I don't really harbor any sort of harsh hatred, but judging by the personality and the vibes that I get, it isn't someone that I would necessarily agree with personally, or someone that I would necessarily vibe with. She has a different vibe that's not mine. We all can fall on, each other's good sides or bad side. She's not on my good side, but it is more so because of her insights and her opinions on certain things and who she claims to work for. Again, like I mentioned in a previous video, when it comes to things like working with deities, I always give somewhat of a harsh pause and hesitancy because you are essentially relying upon whether or not the person you're working with is authentically themselves. And if they are a being of immense power, like a trickster or anyone who's capable of doing such a thing, can absolutely disguise themselves and pretend to be something they are not. And so when you are exhibiting behaviors, and when you have a type of language that is very synonymous with a faith that you used to belong to, that you still maintain, I believe the roots of that faith or that brainwashing within the faith has sort of wormed its way deeper inside. And so there doesn't really appear to be anything sort of differently. I wouldn't be surprised if she perhaps still held some sort of belief and working with this deity that you all know I don't really like, but it can be different for different people. But I see a lot of the hallmarks that I see within a certain type of what we see in today's political party. I absolutely see in her, and but it's not their fault. It's the ideology within that specific party because someone from that side could be a beautiful person. They are conservative or whatever about certain problems that I myself could be a conservative on, and these are things that they have that I have explained to you in the videos prior. So without getting too much into it, let's just start here. This is Melinda the Mystic Witch. So let me see if I can get this sort of thing going. And we are starting.
Work with you and I work with my other guides at the same time, or we don't work together at all. That don't work with me. And a lot of people are afraid of her. I'm not. And I told her that straight up. And I know that sounds so stupid. Like some people are going to be like, whatever, Melinda, you can think that all you want. And this is not me bragging. This is not me making it out to be something that I'm not. I'm just saying When I choose to work with a deity, it's because of the vibration of feeling like there's no pressure and there's no judgment, and more importantly, there's no control over how I learn. That is
And that's true. I feel as though it could be something expected from anyone. Now, I personally, before I get too deep into it, this isn't a type of goddess that I've worked with. I've attempted to establish some sort of a communication, mostly to learn, to understand, and to see whether or not, she's who she is. However, I believe my methods may not be, I think, adequate to establish a type of communication. So I might have to try other methods. But it could also be a possible that perhaps my personal vibe with how I am isn't exactly something that I guess she feels the need to work with. And that's absolutely fine. She's within her autonomy to do so. Um, and yes, of course, having control over yourself is, ideal. Um, yeah, so she already has a sort of vibe. You can sort of see. Now, for those of you who are experienced in speechcraft, like I am, the way a person presents themselves in a conversation, how they talk, says a lot about their psyche, says a lot about their personality, says a lot about who they are as a person. A person that's genuinely more thoughtful, and more kind, or, more laid back, or, it's a lot easier to establish communication with. It's essentially a person that has analyzed everything, that has sort of seen a lot, talked with many people, and have sort of internalized the things that they have learned. And they tend to be people that, are very good at conversations. They tend to be people before, who could be considered as, very diplomatic. Things like politicians, for example, they have a type of charm. They are very eloquent with how they speak, and they understand that their words can have some power or pushback behind it. But also the manner in how you speak, how you address someone, the eye contact, even the head twitches, the I believe the body language in there, accompanied with the speechcraft, is essentially a recipe within the craft itself. And so the delivery is essentially the spell being worked. So let's see how she does in this thing. And if you guys can spot it.
a big, big red flag to me. When you work with a deity who controls what you do, how you do it, tells you what to do, run the other way. That is not the right way to learn.
All right, Christians. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. But I'm going to be talking about this sort of thing because it's very evident. Um, exposing demons and secrets, angelic
Hi,
reality.
everybody.
So
Welcome back to
she
my
clearly gives
channel.
off,
My name is Melinda. I'm the Mystic Witch,
yes,
and you're
the
watching
mystic
Lightwear
witch, the
News.
mystic light
And
witch,
today we're going to talk
light
about
worker vibes,
Hekate.
definitely.
Now, before I
Mm.
start, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel and being a returning subscriber or clicking and you're new and you're interested in this topic. Also, keep in mind that I'm pretty sure my channel has been shadow banned, so your support and your love really means a lot to me because a lot of people have an issue with freedom of speech, of my personal opinion.
And there's the evidence of it right there. So as soon as people use these buzzwords like, shadow ban, freedom of speech, it already starts to, sort of go into your mind as to where their sort of um, ideologies might align. Now, it's not to say that these things aren't true. They perhaps could be, but it's a bit contradictory coming from someone that professes to be a witch. And the majority of the people that tend to align with that side tend to not be that or even vibe with it. But she already comes across as a person of that particular identifying faction. Let us proceed, shall we?
Especially when it is, for some weird reason, considered controversial to not want to work with evil.
Oh, hell no!
What we're going to do
Evil as well. So she already has a concept. Now, it's strange because when a person dabbles within these circles of the occult and witchcraft or whatever, we understand that the word evil, there are essentially always two sides to something. And the concept of evil is in fact a concept. And it is something that is derived from a perspective. A perspective of evil can change depending on a person that experiences something. For example, many people, will probably attribute it as, God being good or whatever. Let's use a Christian God. And this isn't a bash to any of you. You perhaps could be a different understanding of this, but these are in fact what's in scriptures. You would talk about a God that, for example, sure, led his people out of Egypt, if that in fact did happen, but it was also a God that actually pushes people to fight and invade other nations, that told them to essentially kill the women and the children, to leave no survivors. I believe King, what was his name? Started with an S. Saul did this. There's been other times when it starts with the blood sacrifices of animals. That was absolutely a thing. The stoning of people that end up being cheating on their spouses. Not suffering a witch to live, for example. Not very forgiving or understanding. Stoning or demanding the death of people that practiced sodomy or homosexuals, for that matter. And aside from other things, having ties to the origins of a god that was part of a pantheon within that region, that was the god of war. And when you compare that to the amount of war and conflict you saw during that time, that was, at the behest of this deity, you tend to sort of see where that sort of thing lies. Now, for those reasons, aside from many other things that happen within my personal life, as well as, what I identify as, there's many reasons why I wouldn't work with this deity. However, this is according to what is written and what is believed. Now, this specific type of book was one of many that were written by different tribes and believers during that time. So it is possible that perhaps a deity of this name perhaps operated differently with other people. But the dominating faction was the one that was a bit more aggressive and more warlike, and one that ultimately survives onto this day. So she clearly shows signs of bearing that type of connection.
Today is I'm going to discuss Hekate. I don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like the contradictions. And I certainly do not like to be told what to do. That's just my energy, okay? I don't like it when people tell me what makes you a witch and what doesn't. That's not your place to tell me what makes me a witch and what doesn't. I
also agree, and I also don't. And the reason why is because the definition of what a witch is highly depends upon the region and the people that are within that culture, within the region. For example, and I was going through the video on this before, but I was watching some normal witches that I watch, and they have a specific idea as to what a witch is supposed to be. However, the ideal or the definition of a witch has a bit changed. Before, well, let me paraphrase this. Witches to some are people that do evil deeds for their own personal gain. Their witches absolutely do that. In other ones, witches are people that get in touch with energies that are unseen and that do things for other people, to help improve the community. That is what other people had the idea of. And so when you sort of put both of these things in line with each other, they both form a duality that I think cannot be missed. Because I think there is perhaps a misrepresentation within the occult community that a witch has to help the community. A witch has to be a person that speaks with spirits or that dabbles with spirits or anything like that. To some, in a traditional view, it can be a yes, depending on which region you came from, if that's what the witches did. However, there are witches that absolutely can abuse the power, that don't work with spirits at all. I try to work. But there are some that just, work with the elements of nature, which some can also say are also spirits as well, because then the concept of spirits versus energies tends to, sort of, ebb and sway and flow within the conversations. But when it comes to the concept of what a witch is, it ultimately depends on the belief structure within the society that houses them. Okay, so I agree with her on that point, and I also give a counter argument for that as well. Okay, let us continue.
a lot of backlash for even coming out as a witch, even about a year, 2 years ago. I frankly don't care what anyone thinks about me, about my practices, about my spiritual beliefs, about how I do my own thing.
And you shouldn't too much, to be fair.
Because I consider myself more of an individual mind. I do not align myself with any ideology of any type, except with a moral compass and a moral code of do what thy will, but do harm to none. When you do good for others, good will come to you. So I do firmly also believe in the energy of karma, and not just
of karma. And the karma itself is a subject I haven't been to study upon it, but I think the understanding she has for karma is not necessarily the inherent thing within karma. It is sort of a watered down version of karma. I'll probably go into it in a later video. She did say something I was going to address as well, but can't remember. If it comes up, if I remember, I'll talk about it again.
Believe but know it to be true, because I've learned a lot from my spirit guides. I am not making this video to make you believe in what I believe. I'm not making this video to change your point of view in working with her. I'm not making this video to...
She's not, but she is. What you say versus how you say something is what matters. Now, those of us that are experienced within the speech craft understand this very well. It is a very brilliant and strong tactic. For those of us that are gifted within speech, within songs, of which I am, a person within the field of, understand that, you can say something without saying it. And that is where body language and facial gestures and eye rolling essentially where it comes into play. So she is saying that, but she's not meaning to. She wants you to not work with this person based on her experience because she uses a lot of, language that is sort of derogative to the deity itself. But I have as well for mine, but I give reasons for it and I go into history to support it, of which she doesn't, later on in the video.
Shame anyone who works with her. I think if you are drawn to her, you are drawn to her for a reason. When you learn things from her, I think that's good. I also believe that when we learn for good in all areas, whether it's from pain and suffering or from laughter and love. And when we combine those energies, we create something so powerful because we are all of those things. We are not just good, but we have a dark side. And I think that when we embrace that side of us, that makes us more bountiful in energy and who we are. But I also firmly believe that we should never get lost in that dark side because that can take the better of us and we can lose our truest compass of what is right from what is wrong.
And the illusion, and she's right on certain aspects, but I think it is because of the concepts of good and evil and how they are, compared with light and dark. Light can also be evil. Something can be oppressively this shown as light. Like, for example, when you come into the Christian text, it says that Lucifer disguises himself as an angel of light. But within that angel of light dwells an immense, darkness or evil. So something can appear as something being good or light, but it can in fact be bad. For example, there are certain medicines that people use for the betterment, but when it's taken in excess and in certain ways that is not, I think, advised, it can prove to be a detriment. So something that can, profess to be good could perhaps be bad in certain circumstances. But to compare them to light and dark, which aren't wrong at all, darkness and light exist at the same time, I guess from according to certain, doctrines or whatever, whenever this universe came into being, both of these elements were put into play. You have light and darkness. If the sun is upon the earth's face within a certain region for too long, it'll be hard for life to sustain itself because the light will harm the life that's within it. The plants will burn, the crops will dry up. There's no protection from the shade that the darkness provides. So darkness can also be a form of protection from such harsh light, or from an oppressive regime of order, which is how light is seen as and how it projects itself. But on the other hand, when we talk about things like darkness, for example, when you're hiding from the light too much, it can also be a detriment. The plants don't get the nutrients they need. Your skin doesn't get melanin and the vitamins it gets from the sun. It's hard to see within the dark because the light that is needed to see isn't present. And there's a lot less security sometimes when it's dark because dark can hide things, for its own protection, but it can also reveal things for the protection of others. So it ultimately depends upon the person's perspective when it comes to that line of thought and its applications.
What I'm going to share today is my experience with Hekate. Now, some people say her name is Hekate or Hekate. It doesn't really matter to me how you say her name. So correcting me is not going to matter. I'm not going to read those comments. And this video is not to give you history lesson 101 of this deity. So if you're looking for that, go to another video because that's not what this is going to be about. This is about my experience of why I will never work with her and why I don't think other people should either. But again, that's my opinion. I've been told and informed by some people in the past, I won't say their names, who had worked with her. And I couldn't help but notice that a lot of these people who do work with Hekate are very dark vibrational people. They're very negative.
Ooh, that's where we go into the generalization, which is a fallacy. So what she is essentially saying, and before this sort of contradicts her statement before, when she was saying, "I think if you can learn things from her, it is a good thing," and perhaps there's a certain purpose and reason as to why you're working with her. But now she is saying that what she has noticed, anecdotal evidence, where she is saying that this is what she's observed and this is her general opinion on people that work with Hecate, that tend to be dark vibrational people, that these are people with dark tendencies. And dark is something that she associated with being evil. Okay? So she's already saying that people that tend to work with these deities of darkness are people that are more inclined to do evil things. You know, that's why understanding speech and language and song is important, because when there's elements of the craft you don't understand, the sorcery that goes behind her words will take effect and they will do things that perhaps you didn't expect. But she's absolutely generalizing a whole bunch of people right now. You know, she's showing herself to you.
They're very aggressive. They're not positive people. They're very toxic. I just
Right.
couldn't help but notice that this seems to be a common theme for a lot of people who work with her or who have worked with her. I
Shots
have
fired,
had experience
bitches.
with encountering her and even trying to attempt to work with her. But the truth was, I refused to work with her after I tested her and learned quite a few things about her that I feel as a demonologist other people are being deceived by her and by other people who just say, hey, follow her, work with her, just because that's what everyone says you should do. I'm a firm believer that just because everyone does it doesn't mean you should, sis. Doesn't mean you should. Just because everyone
Okay. That was a lot, and I think I might have accidentally paused something. I'm not entirely sure. But no, yes, that is something very interesting. So she's already sort of, talking a lot right here. Let me see if I can go back actually. Let me see here. I'm gonna have to re-record again. Oh, it does work. Perfect.
be a common theme for a lot of people who work with her or who have worked with her. I have had an experience with encountering her and even trying to attempt to work with her. But the truth was, I refused to work with her after I tested her and learned quite a few things about her that I feel as a demonologist other people are being deceived by her and by other people who just say, hey,
Because
follow
the
her, work
god
with her,
she's
just
working with
because
can't do
that's
the
what
same
everyone
thing.
says you should do. I'm a
I'm not
firm
accusing Hecate
believer
doing
that
that.
just because everyone does it doesn't mean you should, sis. Doesn't mean
Right.
you should.
Of course.
Just because everyone jumps off a cliff doesn't mean you should. Doesn't mean you're going to sprout fucking wings. It doesn't mean you're going to suddenly learn to fly. That's not how life works.
And that also means you shouldn't generalize people based on your personal experience or your observation. It also works for that too, Melinda.
And that's not how truth works. And that's not how wisdom works. And for me, when a lot of people kept pushing this and even saying, you should work with Hekate or you should work with Hecate, or, a lot of witches and people who identify in witchcraft, pagans. I identify personally as a pagan, and I firmly identify in a level as a light warrior, light worker. As a psychic medium, you learn, or at least I have learned, so many things about deities and about understanding the deception from malevolent spirits. A lot of the times, people are so easily duped in these lies. People are so easily deceived by these deities that are worshipped consistently, especially within the pagan or witch community, or even in the psychic community. I have worked heavily, and I still work with Horus, with Egyptian goddess Isis, with Shiva, Lord Shiva, with
Interesting.
Ganesha, with Archangel Michael, and with many other types of deities. Have worked with Parvati, who is also in transformation of Kali. Even when it comes to Kali, her
Continue, Melinda.
perspective of that, I don't agree with it. But do I adore the side of Parvati? Absolutely. She's lovely in every way.
Yes. So she's already admitting that one of the deities that she follows, and I feel as though she is a she claims to be pagan. She's worshiping these deities already, so she's already surrendering her power when she does that. But when you're a pagan, although she probably just believes in them, that's sort of a different story. The thing is that when you are any one of these deities could be lying about who they are. You know, she says she's tested Hecate, but has she tested these deities? I don't know. I don't know if she says or not. But it's interesting. I mean, Kali, she knows it's a half of this other goddess, so she sort of tries to disavow the other half and just accept the good, the perceived good. But the issue is that this dark thing that she's rejecting is also a necessary part of the god's personality, just like yours is. You can't be good and light all the time. Um, as I've said before, too much of something tends to be a bad thing. But I think it's quite telling, honestly, when it comes to people like Melinda.
This is what I've learned so far that I cannot ignore, that I feel people deserve to know the truth. One thing I have learned as a medium is if you just take verbatim what spirits will tell you, you're in trouble. Spirits will tell you what you want to hear. They're not going to tell you the truth all the time. Oh, well, he seems nice or she seems nice, and yeah, they're kind of a part of hell, but they don't really align with that. They don't really enslave people.
So, if spirits can lie, Melinda, how do you know that the deities you're working with are lying? Because of the energy they give off? Come on, Melinda. Really? Don't work with the... I'm just joking. No, you work with whoever you feel comfortable. But I agree with her, though. You should test the spirits because they can lie. And that's something I've told you before. Make sure you test whoever you're working with. But testing sounds a bit, it sounds a bit too... what's the proper word I'm looking for? Authoritative, enforcing, something along those lines. Just simply have a conversation, put some things out there, probe them a little bit to see how they are. Sometimes it takes a while to get to know someone to determine whether or not they're a good person. So keep that in mind as well.
That's a lie. That is a lie. And you believed it. There are a lot of people who believe it. And it's really sad because it's such an easy way to be deceived.
But you see, the iconography within this picture is one that labels spirits that have no real physical form as being something. So whenever we see things that we don't like or habits, we attach images to them. And so notice how when someone claims to be working with demons and how the origins of demons actually comes from good spirits, and it's been something that's been bastardized and manipulated by the church. If you go into the roots of demons, or daemons as they were originally pronounced, these were essentially spirits that dwelled within the people, I believe in Egypt and some other regions, and they were seen as good spirits, but they looked different. Some of them had like serpent-esque sort of things, and they were something that were, pagan or strange to the Christian doctrine, even to the Jewish doctrine. So whenever there's deities that you don't like or don't respect, you label them and you picture them as looking and being something else. And you sort of see this when it comes to, for example, the Titans versus the gods of Olympus. The Titans were essentially beings or huge energies or entities that dwelled within the earth that had certain, powers and ways of being. The gods, however, sort of waged war against the Titans. These were natural phenomena, but the gods were, even though they were spawns, they sort of labeled them as being something evil or different. And according to the stories, you always saw the Titans as being bad because of the leader Cronus devouring his sons. Mind you, these are stories. But also when we go into analyze this, and you see this even within the Judeo-Christian background, you see it within pagan circles when it comes to Norse or anything else, there's a certain image that we put onto things that we don't like based on the things that we have observed and things that we have felt from these people. So we generalize. And because we have a lack of knowledge of history, which she admits not doing any research on, and a lack of understanding of how these certain spirits can operate and even interact with certain people that perhaps gets along with, you get this impression from them. Not every person that's friends with me is going to be friends with you. They're different around me. They feel comfortable enough to be themselves around me. They can be very caring, kind, and truthful. But around other people, they can be secretive, which some people can see as being deceptive, sneaky, and untrustworthy when they are not that person. But when you are automatically attributing certain traits and physical iconography on certain groups of people or spirits, that's where the sort of disparaging thing sort of comes into play. And that is where I think she sort of falls into, unfortunately, when it comes to her explanation about these certain groups of people, gods, or even practices.
It's such an easy way to be fooled by a simple, oh, I don't do that. Oh, I'm being misunderstood. But they align with that. Why would they align with hell? Why would they align with evil, demons and devils, for example?
And the other issue is that, like I said before, when you're told about a group of people and you take it at face value, it's sort of no different from how people used to treat other people. I'm not accusing her of this, but this is an analogy. When it comes to things like slavery or racism, because people look different, because people act different, because people, sort of speak differently, things that don't necessarily vibe with you at face value when you first get to know them or not know them at all, you tend to sort of demonize these people. They did it with the Jews during the World War II era of the world, pretty much. They sort of labeled them as these demons, these monsters, these schemers. They had cartoons of them and even portrayed them as demons at a certain point. Those people have been demonized as well as many other people as well. So she's showing sort of signs of that. Not accusing her of that, it's a comparison for the analogy of this video.
If they're so misunderstood, why would they still align with that, though? When I was encountering Hekate, it was with Shiva, with the guidance and assistance of Shiva. It was in this different realm experience. Mm-hmm. And I astral project. I'm an adamant astral projector. I astral project
and it's crazy
pretty much almost every day. Some days I take breaks. My guides help me to chill out and have breaks because it can make you very sick if you do it too much. When I was with Shiva, I had brought up Hekate and asked about her, and especially it's the fact that, a lot of people talk about her within witchcraft and within magic, and that she will help you in your witchcraft, and you have to be really serious and you have to be really into it. But I also couldn't help but notice a lot of people in these YouTube videos and their experiences.
I saw those videos.
They always said the same thing, which I thought was a red flag. And they always kept saying the same thing, which was, you got to be careful about how and what you say to her, because she reacts and she can be very easily offended, basically. That's the politest way to say it. Or defensive. So if you even
why wouldn't you be? If you're meeting someone for the first time that says they want to work with you, but you don't know this person and you're saying things that can offend them, of course they'd feel sort of weird about it. I haven't heard that specifically. What I have heard is that she is a strict master. She's one that strives for excellence. She doesn't, necessarily is known for fooling around too much, but she is a person. She's probably a bit more serious, but she probably does have a character that, can be fine with certain people. I mean, if you're meeting someone, you're not sure about them, you're going to have your guard up. It's normal. And you can be defensive. She's being defensive right now in this video. But in this understanding, that's why people need to have conversations with normal people and actually do research and talk with a lot, because when you come to these sort of conclusions or generalizations, it can be a bit much. But as not necessarily say it's not true, she could perhaps be very defensive, very different. But like I said, it probably depends on the person she's interacting with.
Agree with her or have a questionable interaction, she'll get really pissed off, basically. That was definitely a red flag. I don't know about you, but if someone were to introduce me to their boyfriend or girlfriend and they say, oh, just be careful about what you say to them, they kind of go off the rails. Wouldn't you think that that's a toxic relationship? Wouldn't you think, yeah, I don't know if that's okay. I don't know if that's healthy. I think that's a red flag, right? You would think that that would be people's reaction. You would think that people would be like, okay, sure, you could learn a lot about magic. You could learn a lot about spirituality, whatever. But if they're getting all pissed off at you, angry at you, easily offended, shouldn't that be something you should be worried about? And that's something that I've learned as a demonologist when I have interacted with demons because of hauntings of my clients in the past. I've been taking a break on that because there's been so much healing that's had to be done. When you do that kind of work to help people in the paranormal, it's very detrimental to your health. It can really do a number on you. But what I learned from those experiences, all those clients and those hauntings, is that you can't listen to what they say to you and to face value and say, okay, that's the truth. No. Listen to the energy of what they're giving off, what they're giving, and feel that energy. That's the truth. So if a spirit comes up to you and tells you they're safe, but they're making you shake and you're uncomfortable and you're nervous and you feel like you have to walk on glass, walk around eggshells, if you're always worried about what you say, that's not true power.
I disagree in this point. There are certain people that they can mean something to say, but because they don't have normal interactions with you, they can give up a type of energy that can be seen as either apprehensive, nervous, or even aggressive. Mind you, these are spirits that aren't used to communicating with people at all. So when you have a group of people that are speaking with others that haven't met, they're going to be giving off a type of energy you perhaps do not understand, or perhaps don't necessarily agree with at the time. And it's interesting she brings this up because I remember specifically when I was in the Christian circles, whenever an angel had appeared to a person, they would always say, "Do not fear. It is I, messenger of the Lord." And every time they manifested themselves, a person would be in fear because it's something you don't look at. However, the energy that they could give off is just the intensity of that power. Not good or evil, it's just the intensity. When something is intense, it gives your body a signal for pause to be careful if anything that could happen. Someone could give off power, authority. These things have their own sense of strength and might, but it can be interpreted as something in putting fear in you or something that's oppressive. But it's not that, Like, for example, the differences between somebody, lying on your body versus somebody that's forcing themselves onto your body are different things. They can both feel and they weigh the same, but the intention and the power and the energy behind those things can be different. But there are people that don't know the difference and they can get confused because the energy isn't something they understand. So it can be seen as the same. So something that gives off the energy and the power of, something being authoritative or curious, or just being themselves in presence, can be seen as something oppressive. You don't think that a large person walking by an animal of a very smaller size is going to be... You don't mean any harm to a squirrel. You don't necessarily mean any harm to a spider, but they're going to treat you with respect because they don't know what you're going to do. So yes, they're scared for their own safety, but it doesn't mean that they're right to be fearful, does it? That's pretty much what I'm saying. It's the language here, but that's something you have to sort of figure out, But that's very interesting. Yes, let's just continue.
From a deity, that's fear. And that's fear that they are putting in your energy on purpose because that's who they are. And that's what they want you to feel, is that fear. Don't get me wrong, there are benevolent deities where I could even feel the energy of feeling intimidated, shy, but never do I ever feel fear or threatened in any way by Shiva's presence, Ganesha's.
But what if someone else does? That's the problem. She's using anecdotal experience to dictate this because of how she feels from something. Something can make you feel welcome, and then it can end up not being who you thought they were. Like abusive boyfriends or girlfriends, for example. They're very nice in the beginning. They get you flowers, they get you chocolates, they fuck you real good. You're with them for about a year or few. Then the mask comes off. So you never really know when it comes to deities. You never really know at all.
Presence, Archangel Michael's presence, Isis, Osiris, Horus, yes. Anubis. Never have I felt threatened in any way by their presence. People? Even when I've cussed them out, would I be upset? People be like, why'd you cuss them out? I'm human. I lash out. It's my fire sign. It's not an excuse. It's an explanation. But I apologize. We heal. We move forward. And I learn. And I love them for that. I love their tenderness and their empathy and understanding and their wisdom and their patience and forgiveness. But when I met Hekate, That was a different story. But when I had first encountered her,
Cool
after I
picture.
had talked to Shiva about her, he did warn me. He said she does have hounds with her. I said, I've heard about that. People say they're hellhounds. Is that true? He said yes and no. I don't listen to.
Yes and no. Interesting. So this thing is telling her that they are hellhounds and they are not hellhounds. So those of us that understand the stories and stuff like Hecate, she was originally a deity that I believe the Greeks and the Etruscans and every people within the Mediterranean were essentially offering sacrifices of dogs to. And every now and then, whenever their children would die, they would pretty much lay them within the air because she was a goddess known for childbirth or childbearing and taking care of children, as a way for her to take care of the children that they've lost. And the dogs that are then sacrificed or whatever are essentially watchdogs or guard dogs. They are loyal to her. And they're also ones that I believe can also work as guarding her charge. Dogs are good at guarding, they're good at alerting. They are very good at multiple things. They can fight, they can defend. So these are things that perhaps at her behest can be seen as, loyal warriors, and she does have a few fighters. And they're also ones that are also tasked with keeping the dead safe from other spirits that would try to claim them in the afterlife. That is my understanding when it comes to the dog aspect. You know, this is my impression of Melinda. I'm not sure how much further I'm going to go with this video. I'm about halfway in. I'll probably do the other half later just for the sake of this recording. I didn't want it to be too long. But off the bat, this is halfway in. I'll probably go in further. I am convinced that Melinda is a I don't want to say wolf in sheep's clothing. She's probably the reverse. She's a sheep in wolf's clothing. You know, she is essentially a Christian that is masquerading as a witch, as a pagan witch, because she has a lot of tendencies and then she has a lot of things that align with people that tend to leave that faith and go into the pagan thing. I myself was of the Christian faith. I was within the church for 20 years. I became a youth leader. I've ministered. I've directed services, and I've studied scriptures, and I've had conversations and arguments and debates with other people within the field, even with leaders of the church as well as including pastors. And there were things I necessarily didn't agree with as to how they were doing. This was based off what I was going off of from the book that they attributed as being, factual and true all the time. It was later when I've noticed things that didn't exactly line up with scripture or with the attitude behind God is when I decided to leave. And I think that sort of thing is what motivated me to leave and what sort of keeps me out because I'm seeing it more and more and it is reinforcing what I have seen, what I have felt from working with that deity in the past. And it is something that I sort of see in her. She certainly carries a type of religious trauma, which is why she made the comment before about if a spirit is sort of demanding or trying to control you, you shouldn't work with this person. And she's right in that regard, because that's exactly what that type of Christian God does. It demands obedience, you know, and it exemplifies itself and it perfects itself in your suffering. These are things in scripture. So, but that's according to that God in that scripture. If you believe in a somewhat similar God with a different scripture, it's going to change. But the mainstream faith behind that deity is what is here, and that is exactly what it professes. Now, the pastors and the leaders of these churches could perhaps change the meaning and understanding, or perhaps understand that these are stories that are help teaching us morals, but it doesn't mean that they are 100% true. They believe that the God is, and the idea of the God is, and what we should do is true, but not the words that are, that were professed and, politicized by men to control the masses through God. And so that's what I think she is right now. Now, there's still perhaps a good maybe 14 or 15 minutes left in this video, but this video here is already about 43 minutes or so. So I think I will stop it here and I will pick it up later for a part 2. So let me stop it there. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I'm happy that you all decided to join me today. I encourage all of you to, keep up on your practices and your studying. Make sure that you are practicing that same sort of safety when it comes to sex or magic. Make sure that you are keeping up again on your studies. Make sure that you are going out there, analyzing the world and taking advantage of it. Don't spend so much time behind your screen, behind the table, or behind your books. The books of these worlds are fantastical, but our world is just as fantastic. Go out there, see the things that are still around. Fall is in season, and it's coming, and it's coming rather quickly, and we can see the changes happening within nature itself. Um, I urge all of you to, try to, practice kindness, practice selflessness, but also very importantly, maintain your sovereignty and exercise dominion over yourself and your situations. You are not as powerless as people would have you believe. You are so much more than that, and I know it. Okay, but I did want to show you something. So, since fall is in season, there's a lot of things that are happening, and there were a lot of sales that were happening as well. I was so excited. I went to the craft store, I went to Michael's, and I bought a lot of things. But one of the things that I bought, oh my god, it's a little cauldron! Oh my god, look at it! It is absolutely adorable. It is made out of ceramic. Okay, it is actually a sort of dark copper, something that's been sort of polished. Not really. It has been sort of rough. I could possibly light up this area, but I love the aesthetic. You can sort of see it there. It has a bit of a sheen to it. It's pretty much like a copper sort of thing. It is ceramic, of course, so it can break if dropped, but you can store some things in here. Do I recommend lighting a candle in here? Probably not. It is ceramic. Okay. Talk about this hole. Hey! Talk about the hole here. The hole. Mine is way cleaner than this. It's not, I'm joking. So this can be good to store things like your herbs, any things like spices, even incense cones if you have them, which is probably something I might do, as well as anything else. But I love the aesthetic. It's not black and boring as everything else tends to be. It's sort of a nice earthy brown color, and it's perfect for this season. I can also hang it up. It'll be beautiful as in either floral arrangement, which I believe is what its original intention was for, or storing some items. So I encourage all of you, if you don't want to spend so much money, start with something small. It's sort of symbolic. You can use it in your rituals, provided you take the right safety precautions. And, you can have a good time and, even bring it around during parties. So that is that. But yes, thank you all again. I want all of you to sort of, comment down below what you thought about this video, my analysis on it. I will do the second part, hopefully at some point. And I want all of you to sort of, to sort of go out there, practice what you can, be with people, get stronger in your speech craft, get stronger in your singing and in your sorcery. And if you want to send me a little video about you singing or something like that, even making up songs, and I think I might do this. I think I might start uploading some songs and some poetries that I have made myself for the spirits. And that is something that I think not only we can use as a community, but something that we can also use to bond with people on the outside as well. I've done songs for spirits of, regular things, for fallen comrades, family members, deities, nature spirits like the elements, even done fun things. I even did a tavern song called Harlots and Mead. It's fantastic. It's a very good time. I sang it to someone before and they absolutely loved it. So this is something I think I probably should consider doing. And for those of you that perhaps aren't aware, I also have an Instagram. It should be labeled here at Songs in Sorcery on Instagram. Make sure you follow me there. Do I do regular posts? Not really, but I will try to be more on it in the future. It is because I have I have an ordinary Instagram of myself unmasked. But I don't know if I want to sort of show you that just yet. I'm sort of working on myself. I don't necessarily hate the way I look, but I'm like, I'm sort of trying to keep those things private. But if you like this, and if we're close enough, I might show you a part of myself. Who knows? So, but yes, without further more delay, think those things out. Check out the Spotify channel. I will try to enforce myself to upload some of this stuff to Spotify because I do have it. There are things that currently you can watch. But if you want me to post on the Spotify, write it down here in the comments if you see this video. Give Ivy my love. Give all of them my love. I absolutely love all of them. I adore them. Hearthwitch, Greenwith, Cat and Cauldron, Bane and Bramble, all of those people. I love them all dearly. I love you all dearly. Remember to be kind, rewind, and practice in excess greatness. And without further more delay, but with so much sorrow from our parting, I bid you all a farewell, a goodbye, and I hope to see you again. Okay? Yeah.